Good day, everyone across North America. This is John Garmendi with Sony's Professional Solutions of America, welcoming you to another in our series of Tech Tuesday AV Solutions webinars. These webinars were started in response to the COVID crisis so that our customers, resellers, integrators, and consultants can stay informed and up to date on Sony's latest products and solutions. Today's webinar is part of the Application and Technology Focus series, and this week our webinar is entitled New Ways to Engage Remotely, and we'll be sharing with you the importance of elevating your video conferencing experience so that you can differentiate your remote collaboration and learning experiences. A few items of housekeeping. As in previous webinars, there'll be an opportunity for question and answer, so please submit your questions via the GoToMeeting question panel. I will post links to the information referred to during the webinar in the chat panel, and I will also post a link to our YouTube playlist where you can view all of our archived Tech Tuesday webinars. Joining me today will be Kiana Pompa, our sales support engineer for the Western Zone, Chris Swartz, product manager for our Beamforming Microphone, and Drew Buttress, senior product manager for network cameras. I'll turn it over to Kiana now and join you all back here for Q&A.
Thanks for the introduction, John. Let's go ahead and talk about the Edge Analytics appliance, which is basically the brains of the whole operation. There are 5 different software licenses: Handwriting Extraction, PTZ Auto Tracking, and Chroma Key CG Overlay, which are going to be 3 of the software licenses that I will live demo today. Close-up by gesture and focus area cropping are limited due to the amount of space I have here in my home office, but we will provide a link in the chat so that you can see the live demos firsthand. So without further ado, let's discuss the appliance in a little bit more detail. It is a small form factor appliance. It's around 3 inches by 4 inches, fits in the palm of your hand, and it can be installed on a rack or put in a server room. You pick and choose which software license that you have application towards. So if you only have a use for PTZ Auto Tracking, you're only going to pay for that software license. So you pay for what you need, and it's not a reoccurring fee. You pay for the software license once, and it's yours, including any software updates that we might bring in the future. Additionally, we also have HDMI out, RTSP out, and our firmware update releasing here in December, we will be adding RTMPS so that all of you can now stream live directly from our Edge Analytics appliance to YouTube Live and Facebook Live. It's a very exciting update for us. And then let's talk a little bit more detail on what you're seeing here on the far end. So this is our first scenario, which is our Chroma Key CG Overlay. So you're looking at a couple of different layers. And honestly, this scenario is not new. We're looking at a lot of virtual backgrounds from Zoom, from Teams, and they're using virtual backgrounds, but historically it's just been a standstill image. In this particular area, I'm actually here in my home office, and when I turn off the overlay, you'll have the opportunity to see what the camera is actually keying out in the far end. But there's a lot of layers here, not just one single virtual background. So if you look here, this is actually a PNG image of a studio set, and you can upload your own PNG images, or you can use the default images that we have installed on the Edge Analytics appliance. And then on this side, we have an HDMI input into the Edge Analytics appliance. Coincidentally, I am using my PowerPoint presentation to showcase this demonstration to you, but the HDMI input can actually be anything. So if you're looking at a YouTube video, say you're a real estate agent and you want to do a live walkthrough of a property with your buyer, you can definitely do that. Anything you can showcase on HDMI can be showcased here, and all of these regions are movable. And then the last layer of it is here. There is a live area where you basically can have your own logo and put it overlaid in front of you as well. So pretty neat, different layers, and they are all custom built by you. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention a couple of other features that I'm doing here in my home office to tie this whole solution together to make it virtually hands-free. We really thought of, what's a one-button studio look like here in this new ways of working. So we wanted to integrate the beamforming microphone. So this is the audio that I'm using here currently right now. The beamforming microphone is above my head, mounted on a tripod. And it's really easy because we're using Dante, it's PoE, so just following social distancing guidelines, it's really easy for IT and facilities to remote manage this. So they don't physically have to go into the space, they can just access it via a web interface. And again, for an instructor or presenter, they're just walking into the room and they're just speaking like normal. All they have to do is start the meeting. With this area, we do have a 23-foot capture radius, and if that's not large enough for you, they are an array microphone, so you can always add more to your space to capture more of your area. And then we also have a ProBravia display. So in my home office, I'm using my ProBravia display as my confidence monitor to make sure that I'm not standing in front of my PowerPoint slides and that you all can see me in the far end. So just a really good solution that goes hand in hand with our Edge Analytics appliance. We just released a new BZ40H that reaches 850 peak nits, and it's really good for education as well, or even in small huddle spaces or conference rooms, because we do have that built-in mirroring, so you're not using external boxes. We support Apple AirPlay 2 and Google Cast, so really cool to see this in a professional display. All of this is already integrated into your display, and on top of that, we do offer a 3-year advanced replacement warranty, so you're getting that guaranteed Sony service. If anything happens to your display, you are covered under warranty, and we send you a replacement unit, not someone in there to repair. So really cool features with our ProBravia displays. So that leads me into a couple more use cases of our chroma keyless technology. So here are some examples on how you can make your conferencing experiences more immersive by using chroma keyless like I'm using it here today. Like I said earlier, if you're a real estate agent and you want to showcase like a library, you'll see on the left-hand side there she is in like real life, and then with the chroma keyless, you don't need anything special. You can take any room. If you want to hide your messy living room or your messy home office, like I'm doing here today, you could elevate that space and then make it a little bit better to, user experience on the far end. Even if you're like a YouTube influencer and you want to have a really cool background where you're talking about products, you're unboxing the latest Pokemon card, whatever it might be, you could put that in your background. And then again, making it fun for users on the far end. I have meetings with resellers where we play Jeopardy using chroma keyless CG overlay, and it makes it fun, right? We're all on video conferencing overload, so let's find ways to capture your audience and make this interesting. And that leads me to the next live demo that you'll see firsthand, which is our handwriting extraction technology. So with handwriting extraction, it's a little bit of a different setup, but essentially the same concept. You can take any HDMI camera. It doesn't even have to be a PTZ camera, and it doesn't even have to be a Sony camera. So if you do want to repurpose a camera in your space, you can purchase the Edge Analytics appliance, and that will basically analyze the data in your space and give you this form of augmented reality. And again, you'll see it firsthand, so I won't go too much in detail right after this presentation. And that leads me to the last scenario, which is PTZ Auto Tracking. PTZ Auto Tracking removes the need for a camera operator. Again, such a big deal right now with social distancing guidelines. The less people in a space, the better. So we have a very, very good algorithm that does motion detection, face, and then color and shape recognition. So with all 4 areas of detection, this PTZ auto tracking is really key. And this is the only solution where we lock you down into using a specific Sony camera. So far, all of the solutions that I mentioned previously, it could be any HDMI camera. It doesn't have to be a specific model or brand. But with our PTZ Auto Tracking, we have this supported camera list that you see here. So you have to use any one of these cameras and our PTZ Auto Tracking appliance will work. And again, you'll see this firsthand momentarily. So let's switch over to a couple more live demos. Before I move on to the rest of the live demos, I did want to let you see how my office looks firsthand. So this is what was being keyed out earlier. Again, it's not anything special. No green screen here. It's just my wall and the whiteboard behind me. I do have a pole and my beamforming microphone. So if you remember the green screen or green screenless solution, basically key this all out. So it's really cool that there's no need for special requirements. All you have to do is have to have a 4K camera with at minimum 17 feet of distance. The better the lighting, the better the experience, and the better the camera, again, the better the experience. So without further ado, I'll showcase the next live demo, which is handwriting extraction. So I did want to share my screen with all of you on the far end to showcase handwriting extraction and how easy it is to set up. All you really have to do is access it via IP, and someone can do this remotely. Once you set up configuration, you would never have to set it up again as long as your camera or your whiteboard position has not moved. All your settings stay the same. So essentially, again, you would only set this up once, install, and basically forget about it. It will run in the background. So let's go over how to set it up. It's 2 really simple steps. The camera is already plugged into my Edge Analytics appliance via HDMI. And all I have to do is drag and drop the areas for the 4 corners of the whiteboard. Once that is completed, you'll just specify is this a whiteboard or a blackboard, and then you can play around with the transparency. Just given that this is a demo and it's the first time for many of you on the far end seeing this, I'll leave it at standard 36% and then click on Next. And then we can adjust the blue bars to see what you want displayed on your monitor for far end viewing. So say if I want the full 79%, I can specify, or if I want more of the board, I can also specify that. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show 25%. And then click on Done. And it's that easy. The Edge Analytics appliance does provide a confidence monitor, but as you can see, it's not super high resolution. So I will stop sharing, and then that way you can see the high resolution on the far end. Okay, so as you can see, now I'm standing in front of the whiteboard. You're seeing it in live, full resolution view, of course, bandwidth with video conferencing platforms. It does scale down a little bit, but this is our feed from the Edge Analytics appliance, and it's pretty neat. So I'm just going to use the board just to highlight a couple of key points, and we'll go from there, and then you'll see it in action. So again, with handwriting extraction, this solution is really great for lecture capture or video conferencing if you are using a whiteboard or blackboard in your space. And the benefit here is it's going to be really easy to see on the far end. You can also take screenshots of this, and it just makes it more of an immersive experience, like this form of augmented reality. So we really start with the Edge Analytics appliance. It's the brains of the operation, but you need to send the eyes to the brain, right? So the camera acts as those eyes to the brain, and it's any camera that has HDMI input into the Edge Analytics appliance box. Again, it doesn't have to be a Sony specific camera, but we hope that you choose ours. And then from the Edge Analytics appliance, it analyzes this data, and then this is the solution you're seeing on the far end. And from the REAC 1000, this can go to many platforms, so whether that be video conferencing, live streaming, or a lecture capture. And then from there, like I said earlier, we're also integrating our MASA 100, which is our beamforming mic. The audio currently right now is powered through Dante, so it doesn't even touch the REAC 1000, but the audio is basically agnostic. You can use any audio that you'd like. If you already have an audio system in your room, please feel free to repurpose it. This is not a bundle solution. You pick what you need, and we can work with you to build out a space that works with all of your needs. With that being said, I'll show you a couple of different transparencies. So say for example, maybe you have someone that might be camera shy and you only want to see the whiteboard instead of the instructor. So I can remove myself completely from the shot. So say if I stand in front of the board, the reason why I had, that 25% field of view, you can still see that I'm here for demonstration purposes, but I can cut myself out. And if I stand out here, then you won't see me either. But I just want to show you how it looks when you erase the whiteboard. So essentially, if I erase, say for example, the line in our PTZ camera, this is how it looks on the far end. And then if you want to play around again, like I said, with the transparency, right now we're at 36, but I'll show you how it looks like at 66%. And again, just to reiterate, this is a basic expo marker and a whiteboard ordered from Staples. So nothing special here. The magic is really behind the Edge Analytics appliance. Let's move on to showcase PTZ Auto Tracking. So with this solution, again, it's highly accurate and there is no need for the use of a camera operator. So it starts with setting up a home detection area. The home position can either be in front of the whiteboard like we see here in my home office. It could be at center stage. It could be at a lectern. It could be where you set up your laptop. You decide where this is. And once you physically step into that field of view, the camera will automatically start detecting you as a presenter. And now you are freely free to move about the room, again, completely hands-free, no need for an IR remote, no camera operator. This is completely based on our algorithm. So even if you turn around and face the camera with your back, again, it will still continuously track you because you're a first person in shot. A lot of people ask me, well, what happens if you have an audience that stands up, maybe someone crosses your field of view because they have to use a restroom? The answer here is that it's a one-to-one relationship, so it will only track one person at a time, and it will continuously track you. The only way it will move on to tracking another person is that if you physically leave the focus area shot, and I'll give you an example. If I step out of the frame, it'll try to find me and it realizes the target is lost and it'll go back to its home detection area and we'll wait for the next person to start detecting. So again, as soon as I step into that shot, it'll find me, keep me at center frame, and then continuously track me. It's that easy. So with that being said, we'll move over to Q&A, and if there's any questions that we have in regards to all of these solutions, please feel free to send them over in the chat box. We do have our product managers for the Beamforming Microphone and the Edge Analytics appliance here, ready to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Kiana. We do have some questions, and I guess we'll start with Joanne. So Joanne asks, can the appliance use multiple licenses? And if so, how does this work? How would it track a speaker using PTZ and then using handwriting recognition? Maybe Drew, could you take that one?
Sure, John. So as of right now, the Edge appliance is a single threaded processor, meaning it's one application running on one edge with a single camera input. Kiana alluded to, we have a firmware release coming at the end of this calendar year, and what that will let you do is actually input two different cameras and have two different licenses. Now, at the moment, my understanding is we can only do PTZ Auto Tracking with one camera and handwriting extraction with that second camera. So we're not, at this point, I'm not aware of being able to run say, auto tracking with another application. But again, stay tuned. By the end of this year, we'll have a firmware upgrade to Edge, and we will add in that second thread.
Thanks, Drew. And Joanne actually has a follow-up question regarding PTZ tracking on Edge and its ability to track while the presenter is wearing a face mask.
So the way the thing works is the face detection is really to kind of kick off all of the other algorithms. And we are aware that if you're wearing a mask, it may not detect you. If you could pull the mask down for just a few seconds, we start the algorithms, you know, the color, the shape, the size, patterns, and pull the mask back up, then you'll still be tracked. Because as Kiana demoed, she could turn away from the camera. We didn't lose track of her. She'd have to actually leave the defined field of view. So right now, you know, I understand a lot of places are like, you can only be in the classroom and you have to wear your mask. But if you could just pull it down for a few seconds, let the Edge detect your face, pull the mask back up, I think we're good to go.
Thanks, Drew. And this is, I think, more of a comment than a question from Kurt. But Kurt says here, it'd be interesting to have the auto tracking and whiteboard enhancement at the same time. So as the speaker moves about, the whiteboard stays in its location, but the text remains enhanced. You understand what he's saying?
Yeah, I think so. So all right, so in the auto tracking application software, you have a choice during the setup, which is what we call free body tracking or fixed body tracking. And what would happen there is, if we define the whiteboard as that fixed area, we'll follow the speaker. But if they go out past the whiteboard or the blackboard, we would no longer be tracking them, and then you have to set your timeout to be appropriate so they can come back in and not lose the track. So with that firmware upgrade coming at the end of the year, where we can do both the handwriting extraction and the PTZ auto tracking, on the auto tracking you would just set it up for fixed body tracking. And then the second camera and second HDMI output would be giving you the actual processed text off of that white or blackboard.
Excellent. Thank you, Drew. I think we have a question now for Chris. This question is from Christina and asks, how many Dante Flows does the beamforming microphone have support?
All right, thanks, John. I'll take that. It's a pretty simple answer. There are 2 flows, which means that, so the microphone has 2 channels that come out of it, right? A channel 1 that is for speech reinforcement, and a channel 2 that is for clear record. And in this situation, you're going to be using channel 2 to pick up a wider breadth of the room and to do your records to lecture capture or to video conferencing or UC clients. But a flow actually encompasses channel 1 and channel 2. And you can take channel 1 and channel 2 and send them to 2 different locations. And that's what a Dante flow is. So the short answer is 2.
Thanks, Chris. And there's a follow-up question regarding the mounting of the microphone. Can you speak a little bit to the physical mounting?
Yeah, sure. So the microphone itself, when it comes, there are a couple things. There are holes on the microphone itself, so you could mount it however you see fit with using these holes. And you also get a template in the box that allows you to draw up how you want to mount it, maybe on a ceiling tile or any kind of other things. One of the things that we say is to mount this to a junction box, because the mounting plate, right, allows you to take the microphone off the ceiling and much easier, because it's a twist in type of mount. So you mount the mount, and then you mount the microphone to the ceiling mount. That being said, We have looked at some other mounts, and if you have any off-the-shelf mount that will actually attach to a junction box, an electrical junction box, you should be able to get it to mount to the microphone. So that gives you a lot of options, especially if you're in a room where you need to bring the mic down a bit when you've got a high ceiling.
Excellent, Chris. Thank you. Drew, we've got a follow-up question here on the Edge appliance from Adam. He asks about the hardware, the companion hardware necessary to run the Edge, meaning is a PC required? And he asks, how does it work with tattoos?
Well, that's a great question. So let me do the first part. You need a laptop to do the setup of the application. Okay, so regardless of which application you're going to run, there is a setup, as Kiana had demoed, right? You go into the setup, you set up the parameters for the application, and then you hit run. Once you've done that, now we also, I think, John, you put a link in there for our technical documents. We also have a lot of documentation so that if you're running one of the control systems like a Crestron, Extron, MX, you would be able to start and stop the application. We've also got the ability to put the Edge into standby mode. So you've got some options there. Again, the PC is really only required for that initial setup. You can disconnect it and the appliance will run as long as there's power to it. To answer the tattoo question, I honestly have I don't have a tattoo, so I haven't tested it. My hunch is we're looking for certain physical characteristics: eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and then once we've detected the face, we're putting all of the other tracking algorithms into play. So I don't know that a tattoo would affect it. Again, I can't answer firsthand. I haven't tested it with somebody who had facial tattoos. So.
Thank you, Drew. Have a couple more that I think are for you as well. There's one from Charles. He just asks, is the SRG XP1, or does the SRG XP1 work with Zoom?
That answer is yes. We've tested it with Zoom. It hasn't been certified yet. We're working on that. Right now, the XP1 over its USB 3 is sending the video as UVC H.264. A lot of the UC applications would rather see, or they won't take that format. But we have a firmware release coming for the XP1 a little bit later this calendar year, and that's going to add in UVC motion JPEG, and then that'll work pretty much with every UC package out there.
Very good, Drew. And it looks like we have one last question. Does the Edge appliance, the REA C1000, do RTMPS streaming?
As of today, no. We're doing RTSP streaming. That firmware upgrade that's adding in a lot of improvements and some new functionality, that is adding in RTMPS. So then people would be able to stream live to, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, where they require RTMPS.
Okay, great. Thanks, Drew. And it looks like we are at the end of our questions. We appreciate everyone's participation and thank you for all the interesting questions. Stephen, I did note yours, and we will have someone get to you right after the webinar. So I want to remind you about our next upcoming Tech Tuesday. We're going to do something a little different, and I think that you guys are going to be in for a treat next week. We've got a moderated panel discussion that will be led by our very own Rich Ventura, the Vice President of our B2B Sony Imaging and Product Solutions Group. And he'll be joined by Jeff Hastings, the CEO of BrightSign. Brian Mazzaros, the CEO of OpenEye Global, and Joe Mendonca, Director of the Digital Media Practice for AdTech Systems. The title of the panel discussion will be, or the subject of the panel discussion will be growing the value of your digital signage investment. And you'll learn how to employ best practices throughout your organization to help you make digital signage a success for all of your stakeholders. Learn about accelerating your ROI for your digital signage solution, craft a successful digital signage plan, develop an impactful content strategy, and expand the use cases for your digital signage deployment, as well as accurately measuring the digital signage ROI and ROO. So I think that this will be a treat, and I urge everyone, if you're not registered, to please do so and listen to these very bright thought leaders in the digital signage industry. So until next week, I wish everyone a safe and healthy and productive week, and we'll see you next week back here for Sony's Tech Tuesday series. Thanks, everyone.